Coming to you from Milwaukee, Wisconsin by way of Stone Mountain, Georgia. Birthed by the great state of South Carolina is the Bryant Land Country Podcast. Your place for any and everything in hunting, fishing, sports, and outdoor related, with heavy doses of randomness, guests, and an all-around good time. Here's your host, proud Gamecock, South Carolina forever, Ep.5.
All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of the Bryant Land Country Podcast. I am your host, Ep.5. I'm sitting here in Detroit, Rock City, just finishing up a game here, Pistons and Bucks. Finishing that up, and then now I got to lay down this recording, this intro for this episode of the podcast. Like I said, at this time, getting ready to jump home to Stone Mountain, Georgia for a few days. Got a couple of days off of the road. Going to try to get home, maybe do some maintenance on property, check out the Super Bowl stuff that's going home in Atlanta, and then jump back out and get back on the road. I tell you what, right now in the D, it is daggum minus 25 degrees outside. I can't stand this kind of cold, man, especially when there's no hunting or nothing going on around. But hopefully I'll get out of here in the morning, spend some time with the kids, and then get on back out on the road. In the meantime, between time, I have a great guest for you guys today, Jordan Summitt. Jordan Summitt is a producer for the Strut Commander and Buck Commander videos down there in Louisiana. I really enjoy talking to this fella. With my background in television, it was always good when I get to sit down with another creator, another media creator, a guy like Jordan. Like I said, he does a lot of the editing, does a lot of the producer, behind the scenes work when you're looking at those Buck Commander or Strut Commander videos, or even some of the Duck Commander videos. A lot of work goes into producing and making that content. A lot of work goes into that before you get the final product, however you consume that, whether it's on TV or on your phone or on the computer or whatever. There's a lot of work that goes into that behind the scenes. So I sat down with Jordan, kind of picked his brain, kind of try to find out how they put that stuff together. So you guys kick back and listen to my conversation with Jordan Summitt from Buck Commander. Thanks for joining me, man. It's awesome to have one of the Buck Commander members here on the Bryant Land Country Podcast. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing good, brother. How are you?
I am doing great. I am in Milwaukee. I wish I was back down south, but I'm sitting here in Milwaukee. It's 25 degrees out. So, yeah, but, you know.
Bet you were cold.
Yeah, it's not fun, but, you know, when you're working, you just got to go where you can work, you know?
That's right. That's right.
So one of the things that I wanted to ask you, I got a good list of things I want to talk to you about and ask you about, but me being a director, a television director, I'm very curious about the world of producing for outdoors and outdoor shows. Now, what all do you have as far as like on your credits, as far as like as a producer, as far as with Buck Commander and all those guys? What all have you produced and you're responsible for?
Man, actually, when I got into this thing was about 13, 14 years ago. I just got out of school, and so I basically gotten a summer job with Duck Commander as an intern, just kind of doing grunt work. And at the end of that summer, Willie told me that he was going to start a company called Buck Commander. And I wasn't a big deer hunter at the time, but I was a really big duck hunter. And so I really wanted to work for Duck Commander, and I wanted to film the Duck Commander videos and kind of produce those. But anyway, he had told me he was fixing to start Buck Commander and needed a guy to kind of head that up and produce it. Quite honestly, I talked to my wife about it a little bit, and I said, well, I guess this may be a good way to work my way up to maybe videoing ducks one day and doing that. And I'll just do deer for a little while and then see where it takes me. And look up here, 13, 14 years later, I'm still doing the deer and loving it. And actually now I'm a bigger deer hunter than I am a duck hunter. Anyway, so basically I produce alongside with a couple other guys here at the office, produce the Buck Commander TV show on Outdoor Channel. We're going into our 10th season on Outdoor Channel, and also produced several of the Duck Commander videos, and then another show that we did on Outdoor Channel called Commander Life that featured our fishing and our turkey brands. anyway, but yeah, mainly buck commander.
Nice. Now, when you were in school, did you go to school for any kind of like video production or television production, or?
I sure did. I went to a little school in Searcy, Arkansas, called Harding University, a little Christian school up there. I actually majored in graphic design, but I had gotten to videoing me and my buddies doing stupid stuff in our off time away from school, and a couple of our little hunts and whatnot, just goofing around, and really kind of took a liking to the video side of things. So I switched my major, and I was doing communication, video communication. And the only problem I had was that our school was really gearing you towards doing the news and that type of stuff. And I really didn't want to do that. I was like, man, I really want to video and produce for hunting and fishing. And I was a huge Duck Commander fan.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said earlier, I was a big duck hunter and a big fan of Duck Commander. So basically, one day I got on their website, and you got to remember this is before Duck Dynasty. This is before the Robertsons were really big. They were big to me,
right?
But they weren't big in the big space. They were in the hunting world. And so I sent in an email one day and ended up getting a reply back from Willie.
Oh, wow.
And he said, you know what, I actually went to that same college, and we would love to have you come up. And so I came up and videoed for a couple of weeks. And that's where he ended up offering me the summer job after I got out of school. Anyway, fast forward, here we are today.
Wow. That's pretty awesome, because you made the right decision, because I can tell you when I was in college, I went to the University of South Carolina, and I started in journalism. And at that time, this was 95, 96 when I was in journalism. And what they basically wanted us to do was dress up every day, and you would go to the State House and you would try to get like stories and try to get bites and stuff from the representatives and whatnot at the State House after they've already talked to the quote unquote real news people. You know, you're a college kid trying to go in the Columbia heat all dressed up. And back in those days, we used to have like the cameras that had the deck separately. So you'd have the deck on your shoulder, and then you'd have the camera. And oh, by the way, you're dressed in your Sunday best trying to get these guys to talk to you. So that lasted for about a semester for me. And then I went into media arts. Fast forward, ended up working in local news probably for about the first 10 years or so in my career. No, I'm sorry, about 7 years, because I left and went to start doing sports in 2003. So from about 96 on, I was working in local news. And I tell people all the time, when you work in local news, it's death, murder, taxes, and in South Carolina, hurricane coverage. And it's literally that cycle. It's death, murder, taxes, hurricane coverage. So, and I'm always a big proponent of people knowing what they want to do early, because it helps you to get to where you want faster. So the fact that I was going to ask, so you pretty much knew that going into college or coming out of high school or towards the end of college that you wanted to film hunts?
Really, probably my sophomore year was when I decided that. Because honestly, you know, the Duck Commander VHS tapes, I mean, they weren't even on DVD back then. They were on VHS tapes.
Right.
And so into high school, you know, that's when I got into it as far as watching the Duck Commander stuff and watching hunting videos. And then I think probably my freshman or my sophomore year, I was gifted just a little point and shoot camera by my parents for Christmas. Anyway, I just used that to kind of mess around filming my buddies and me doing stupid stuff and getting our truck stuck in the mud and hunting and just doing dumb college kid stuff that I hope my son never does. And
don't discourage him from having a little fun and learning the hard way about getting stuck in the mud.
No, that's good. Some of the stuff I'm not. Don't be calling me in the middle of the night. I can't pull you out of that mess. But but yeah, we had a good time, and it's funny because once I switched my major from graphic design, I always had kind of an artsy side to myself, like as far as, you know, like to draw and paint and whatnot, kind of creative mind. And anyway, I thought I wanted to be a graphic artist, and like I said, it didn't take me long. Actually, funny story, I remember coming in to, I think it was my art history class, and if anybody's ever taken art history, you know it's one of the most boring classes on the face of this planet. A lot of good stuff to know, but just very boring. I mean, it's just literally looking through slides and writing down notes, and then they give you a test on it at the end of the week. It's just memorization of what you saw. I remember coming in, it was an 8 o'clock class, and it was the first part of second semester. So 8 o'clock, you're breaking into my duck hunting time. And I remember coming in late several times to that class, and I would still be wearing face paint, full camouflage. Occasionally when we got them, we'd have blood and feathers on our hands, but I remember after like fifth or sixth time, my professor called me in after class. He said, I really need to talk to you about this being late. That's going to start affecting your grade here pretty soon. And I said, well, maybe I just need to drop this class because I'm not going to quit duck hunting. So now I will say I wouldn't approve my son doing that, but I definitely had a passion for it and wasn't going to let anything get in my way of doing it.
That's funny. So it sounds like that runs through that whole commander crew, because I remember either reading something or watching something where Phil was like, because, for people that don't know, Phil was All-American quarterback at Louisiana Tech. I think he was like
That's
behind
right.
Bradshaw, I believe, or
That's right.
was there with Bradshaw and Terry Bradshaw. I remember reading or seeing something that was basically like he quit football because it was in the middle of duck season.
That's right. That's right. It interrupted his duck season,
so
which,
it must be runs in
funny.
that whole group.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's definitely been in me for a long time, and quite honestly, we were talking about it the other day, and I don't know what else I would do in life if I didn't do this, because it's so much fun. I really enjoy it. It's a great job. I get to work with some awesome people, and super blessed by it.
Yeah. Because of, like I said, my background, we're going to have a little bit of television production nerd out here for a little bit. And one of the things I'm always wanting to know, like when we go in and we do what's called site surveys. So whenever you go into an arena or go into a space and, you go in and you set up cameras and you kind of look at camera angles and, where is a good place to put this and like your basic cameras. And then if you have the budget and or the time, then you put in like all your extras. Is that kind of the same thing when you're out there? Because, I know you do like a lot of scouting and stuff, obviously, before the hunt. But when it comes to actually filming it and getting things together, are you out there like looking for angles while they're out there scouting? Or is it kind of you just boom, go in and just figure it out on the fly?
It depends on where we're at, just kind of what we're hunting. A lot of times it comes with experience too.
Mm-hmm.
I'll tell a quick story with we've got a camera guy that's worked for us now for a long time. He's super experienced now. But his very first year, I remember, I think it was Willie that took him out, when they were headed to this stand, and we always take an extra stand for the cameraman.
Mm-hmm.
Or not always, but sometimes we take an extra stand for the camera guy. So this particular spot that Willie was going to didn't have a camera stand for the cameraman to sit in. And so gave one to Willie and put one in his truck. And anyway, him and his cameraman are headed out there. And this guy's green. I mean, he has done very little in the hunting film world. They get out there and Willie gets all his stuff out and getting out of the truck. And he says, why don't you grab the lock on, go ahead, get up there and hang your stand. And the guy looked at Willie and he said, what's a lock on? He said, uh-oh. We may have a problem. But now the guys, I mean, he knows everything he needs to know and been through extensive amount of situations and training and all that. And I was the same way too. I mean, like I said, I was a big duck hunter, not a deer hunter whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
I found myself, when I did go deer hunting in high school, I was always cold, I couldn't talk, and I never saw anything. So it just was,
right.
It was not my cup of tea. Duck hunting, you got to talk, you get to eat in the blind, you saw ducks, you got to shoot most of the time, even if it wasn't at ducks, you just shoot at whatever, Oh, it's duck. No, it wasn't. So,
right.
Anyway, yeah, so I wasn't a big deer hunter, so, I had to learn a lot of the stuff I know now. I had to learn it on my own. At first, I was the only employee here as far as for the video team.
Oh, wow.
On the deer side. Now, duck hunter, a couple camera guys, but the deer side, we didn't have anybody but me just for like a year or two. I remember going on trips with 2 or 3 guys, and I would just bounce from guy to guy each day. One day I'm with one dude, one day I'm with the next dude, one day. And it always happened where the guy that I wasn't with is the one who got a buck. And so not getting it on camera. And so we ended up having to hire some extra guys. But like I said, I learned a lot from trial and error. And back to your question, when we're going into spots, a lot of times, like I've got a place here in Louisiana, I'll go out there and me and Willie will run trail cameras and we'll kind of look at areas that we want to hunt. Typical deer scouting, looking for trails. And a lot of it, too, is just history and experience of knowing these spots and knowing how the deer like to travel and what times of the year they're in one area and what times of the year they like to hang out in another. We've got our early season sets and then we've got our rut stands and we've got late season spots. And so that's come with experience, figuring that out over the years, hunting these same areas.
Right.
And so a lot of my sets, they're hung the first time, and I may have to make an adjustment after hunting 1 or 2 times. but a lot of it is on the fly too. So if we go to Illinois, a place I've never been before, and hunt with somebody, they probably already have a stand set up. And so what we'll do is we'll get in there, and I may have to hang a stand in the dark, and then there's occasionally you have to deal with, limbs that need to be cut, and you weren't able to do it, and you kind of have to work around situations too. So, yeah, I mean, sometimes you're able to plan and get everything out and lined out, and
Right.
sometimes you just have to deal with the cards you're dealt.
Yeah. It's kind of like what we call a set, shoot, strike. Like sometimes if you're on a bigger production, like on a bigger game or something like that, you get in, you have a set day, you can kind of set up, make sure everything's where you want it, kind of tweak stuff a little bit or whatever. But, most of the times go in day of the game, you get in 6-7 hours early before the game even starts, and then you set up everything, and then you go in, you do the game, and then the crew's left to tear everything down after the fact. So sometimes it's like that as well.
Oh, yeah.
I keep hearing you say you're a big duck hunter. Who introduced you to duck hunting? Is that a family thing, like with you and your brothers and sister? Are you an only child? Like how did you get introduced into that?
That's another kind of funny thing, which is funny because I'm not a duck hunter anymore. Now I could care less about going, but because I've come full circle. But,
really?
Yeah, and yeah, it's really funny. But when I was young, probably 12 or 13, my dad didn't hunt. I had 3 brothers. My older brother, he was considerably older than I was. I think he was like 8 or 10 years older than me. Mm-hmm. And so we really didn't get to, and he was in the Navy, so we didn't get to really spend a whole lot of time together by the time I was of age to go hunting.
Okay.
My dad encouraged me, to go get my hunter safety and all that. And so I did that. And there was a guy at church that his son, I think, was probably 5 or 6 years younger than me. He taught the hunter safety class, and went and did that with him, and then he invited me to go hunting with him and his son, and I went deer hunting a couple times with my grandfather, and then eventually I'd go with my younger brother once he got of age to go deer hunting. And keep in mind, I always said I wasn't a big deer hunter because we never saw anything. It was cold and couldn't talk. Mm-hmm. And so that's the way it was all growing up for me. Like every time I went deer hunting, it was like that. And then anyway, once I got into high school, honestly, it was a bunch of my buddies that I'd met in some of my ag-rec classes. They always talked about duck hunting and whatnot. And so I started going. I really kind of taught myself, went and learned from hanging out with them, and learned how to call and kind of situations to be in and where to go, places to go on public land and whatnot. So I really kind of taught myself everything that I knew about duck hunting. Once I got into college, I met more guys that became my buddies that were big duck hunters, and just kind of snowballed from there.
Nice, because sometimes I feel like I'm a super, super late bloomer. Like I didn't really start hunting hard until probably about 4 years ago now. Started out with bows. I went on a hog hunt and shot a hog with a bow, and then I took a couple of deer and just kind of fell in love with bow hunting. And then after that, bow season was done. It's like, okay, what to do? And then with me being up here in Wisconsin 6 months out of the year, I started duck hunting and goose hunting. And man, I've fallen in love with duck and goose hunting. I think I probably go more duck and goose hunting just because of the areas and ease of access and stuff. I do most of my deer hunting back home down in Georgia, but being up here, 6 months out of the year and stuff, I've fallen in love with it. I mean, I went to Arkansas last year for the first time. I got my second trip. I went already one time over at the end of the year, and then I got a second trip to Arkansas planned here in a couple of weeks, and I've just fallen in love with the waterfowl, with duck and goose hunting. So it's funny to me to hear you talk about how it's gone full circle to start out with deer and to fall in love with duck hunting, and then now just coming back into deer hunting. Yeah. And
I think honestly the reason why, I went on a duck hunt the other day. Usually, I filmed one the other day with Martin, and it was a blast. Had a great time filming it. And then I think a couple of weeks ago they invited me to actually come hunt, which is for a camera guy around here, that's a rare occasion. So I went and got to go hunt with those guys. Man, we didn't kill a single duck, but it was so much fun. Just really got bringing back memories and, remember why I love that so much.
Yeah.
Like I said, with the deer, I think the reason I kind of got out of it was because I spend my time, and a lot of people don't realize this, for Buck Commander, for our TV show, we shoot our show starting, depending on the year, usually it's around September 1st.
Okay.
And we shoot all the way till the end of January, depending on where we get to hunt and states and whatnot.
Right.
And we shoot our video all the way through there. And then we start editing immediately. So February 1st, whenever we get done with our last deer hunt, we start editing that show. And then that show starts airing in July.
Right.
So we'll edit our 10 or 12 episodes in the months of February all the way to beginning of June when we have to turn them in. And then we start, then we get to watch them on TV from July and August. And then here you go. September 1st, time to do it
Turn
again.
right back around.
It's a year-round thing
Yeah.
for us. So I'm constantly looking at deer, either looking at them on a screen or looking at them on a screen actually in the woods. So, it's a constant thing. I'm just around them so much that it's like you said with bow hunting, I've just come to love it. I mean, I love it. I love the challenge of trying to get on some of these big bucks, and getting it on camera is really, really cool. We get a lot of requests for guys that want to become a camera guy, or they want to start in the industry. And I always ask them, like, do you really want to shoot video for your job, or do you want to be on camera? Because if you want to be on camera, this probably ain't the rig for you here. I mean, this ain't the gig you want. And
not the most glamorous job in the world.
No, it's not. I mean, it really isn't. But it's very satisfying to be able to take that moment in time.
Right.
That deer hunting's all about that 15 seconds, right?
Yep.
That 15 seconds of glory. So you see this buck, you get it all on camera. It looks awesome. You get the kill shot, you get the recovery, you get all this stuff, and then you got it to where that guy that was hunting, he can go back and replay that forever.
Right.
And everybody can see it. Now, if you were just out there by yourself and you witnessed all of that, I mean, memory comes and goes, right? You can remember details about, I can remember turkey hunts that I've been on that, like, yeah, I think we were over here. I can't remember if we killed 2 or 3 birds, but I mean, it was pretty cool,
Right.
But like, you can actually, with video, you can go back and say, no, I killed 2 birds, and it was awesome. He triple gobbled and stuff like that. So anyway, that's the beauty of the video side of it. I just really enjoy it.
Now, you were saying two things I kind of jotted down that I was curious about. You said that, it's not often that a camera guy gets to pick up and hunt with those boys a lot. Now, being a hunter and loving to hunt, like you said, you just laid out your schedule. Where do you find the time? Do you find the time to get out there to hunt? I guess it's a 2-part question. Do you find the time to get out there and hunt? And then how do you manage the burnout? Because I know, like you said, either sitting in front of a camera or sitting in front of a screen, editing and doing that stuff, there's a chance that burnout, you get tired, you're just seeing the same thing over and over again. How do you manage the burnout? And then how much actual hunting do you get to really do?
We're really fortunate that we've got a crew of about 4, 5, 6 guys that run. So we've actually got our character casting list is bigger than most shows. Like most shows follow one guy.
Mm-hmm.
So if he has one cameraman the whole year, they can get burnt out super easy.
Yep.
And so like we've got 4 or 5 different characters that we're following for the entire hunting season. So we got 4 or 5 different camera guys that all share in the job of this. And there might be I might go on a 2-week trip and come back, and then I'm home for a couple of weeks before I got to go anywhere.
Okay.
So, I'm not out every day,
mm-hmm.
but quite honestly, I'll tell you this, ever since I had kids, if I do have time at home in between deer hunts, I like to take them. Or let my wife
mm-hmm.
go out, and I'll stay back and watch the boys at night, stuff like that. I enjoy going for myself, but now it's about taking my boys and letting them enjoy that. And like I said, I didn't really get to do that growing up. I've got a 10-year-old and a 4-year-old, and the 4-year-old hadn't got to go out yet. He's not quite old enough, but the 10-year-old, he's killed a decent little buck.
Nice.
and killed a doe.
Nice.
And all that kind of stuff. And he's a big turkey hunter now. So anyway, yeah, he actually just walked in my office. They really enjoy it, and I'm glad that I've been able to pass that down to them.
Exactly.
To see them enjoy the outdoors.
The young one, is he, or your 10-year-old rather, bow hunt or gun, or what's his preference?
He would really like to start bow hunting.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, he can't quite pull back enough. Every year he asks me, Daddy, I'd like to shoot something with my bow, but he's just not pulling back quite enough. Now, he's killed a doe with a crossbow, and he killed a buck with a rifle a couple years ago. But
nice.
He would probably tell you bow hunt, even though he hasn't gotten bow hunting yet. But he's gotten to go crossbow hunting, so he enjoys that.
Nice. And then you yourself, when you get out, are you strictly bow when you're going after the bucks, or what do you, crossbow, gun? Like, what do you?
Usually it's whatever I can get.
Yeah.
So this year, the only thing I even shot this year was I shot a doe
mm-hmm.
on my property. Probably the coolest thing about that to me, I got a little dog, that a little golden retriever last year, and trained her up for tracking deer, and
Okay.
she tracked it for me. I mean, I made a good shot, and it was a good shot, but wanted to give her a test run, and she did great. She found it in 15 minutes, and so that was my big achievement for the year for myself. I was like, man, if I don't do anything else this year, that was awesome. They will take this dog from a puppy and train her up, and now she can go track deer and stuff like that if I don't have any friends that have any trouble. But yeah, usually for me, it's whatever it can take. Last year or 2 years ago, I guess now, got a chance once everybody tagged out on our Nebraska hunt. We were there for rifle season. Everybody tagged out, and we had a day or two left before we had to be home. And so they were pretty much like, hey, everybody's had good odds going out, getting one with a rifle if you want to get a tag. And so did that, and literally bought the tag that morning, I think, and that evening got me a deer.
Nice.
Got me a pretty good buck.
Nice.
So, I'll take what I can get. Like I said, I'm usually good for getting a buck about every 2 or 3 years as far as getting it done, but I don't go out a lot for myself. Like I said, if I get time, I like to take my kids, or my oldest son, I guess, for right now.
Yep. No, that totally makes sense. And how about Nebraska, huh? I killed my first Miriam last year out there. I love it. I'm hoping I can go back this spring. We're going to see how things shape out. And I've heard the deer hunting in Nebraska is pretty good. But yeah, man, I think they call it like the good life or something like that. I think it's their state slogan. Yeah, I like that place. What part of Nebraska were you in? Do you remember?
We were right near Bassett, which is kind of north central.
Okay. Yeah.
But it's awesome. Nebraska is a great, great state for deer and turkeys.
Now, have you duck hunted out there?
I haven't. Could have while I was there. We were scouting deer one night out on one of our alfalfa fields. We were up there kind of close to this river, and they would go roost in the river at night.
Ooh.
Ducks and geese would just fly over. I mean, you could have shot them on the flyby basically up there. But yeah, they're full of ducks and geese too.
Wow. Yeah, it's on my to-do list, so hopefully I can scratch that one off here in the next couple of years.
Yeah, you need
like
to.
Like I said, Nebraska's awesome. So let me ask you this now. We get back into the filming, and you were talking about, going out and loving it and loving being a cameraman. And now I have taken my hand at self-filming a little bit, and I would mostly call it follies. I would not call it a successful filming adventures. I don't know if you remember back in the day, you used to have like football follies. I'm seriously thinking about just putting out a series.
That's the whole Buck Commander show.
Just really thinking about putting out a series of videos called the hunting follies, especially the Adam Bryant hunting follies, because oh my God, I have the worst luck self-filming. So my question to you is, have you done it? Any thoughts on it, or like any tips or anything that you can, through your experience and your wisdom?
Man, I'll tell you what, what's really funny about this is that when I do go out by myself, it's a break from filming, and I don't even attempt it. And it's funny because you'll go out and do something, and everybody's like, did you get it on camera? I'm like, no, it was my vacation day, man. I'll go out there and hunt and enjoy not dealing with a camera that day. But I have, not saying I haven't ever done it. Yeah, I've done some self-filming and whatnot. That probably the best thing they got going these days are these GoPros, these Tacticams, these cameras you can put on your weapon and be able to capture it all. And they got remotes on it, so literally you just hit we use these in our TV show. These GoPros, they got a remote, so you can wear like a watch. And so I'll hit it, and it turns it on, starts recording immediately. So if I see a deer that, we're even thinking about shooting, I'll turn it on and hit record. Usually I try to position my GoPros. Now, we use them as a second and third, fourth angle, depending on how many you got.
Sure.
They're not the main angle, but for a self-film, I mean, if you just kind of point it in the direction, their lens is so wide, you can capture it on camera, especially with these little remotes. And so they make little tree hooks for them and all kinds of accessories now that you can use that really you don't have to do a lot of movement up in the stand. You can hit one button and it'll capture it. It kind of depends on how far you want to go with the production of your hunt. Like, I've also done it too, where I had a little handy cam on a tree arm that I put right beside me and trying to follow the deer. And there's a lot of people out there doing an awesome job with that. And there's several of us that don't. And so I remember one of our guys in Buck Commander, Luke Bryan, he was really busy last year filming that American Idol show, some little show. I don't know,
no big deal, right?
That's no big deal. But he was busy. He was too busy to really do many of our deer hunts. he called me one day and he said, "Hey, I need a camera that can record my hunts. What do I need to get?" And so I said, "Well, yeah, we can get you this." And I lined him up with a little shopping cart and sent it to him, and he bought him some camera gear. And then he called me a couple weeks later, and he was like, "Man, I got an incredible hunt the other day myself." I said, "Really, you did? You videoed it, all your stuff?" He's like, "Well, I didn't get the kill shot, but I killed a really nice buck." And so he was all tickled to death. He was just, "Sorry, I didn't get it, but you're probably not going to want to use it, but maybe you can find somewhere to put it." So, and you'll probably see that on this year's Buck Commander somehow. We'll probably use it actually to make fun of Luke a little bit. But
that's funny.
Anyway, so even if people are listening out there, even Luke Bryan tries to self-film.
Well, and I guess now I don't feel so bad because the first couple of times I used my Tacticam, I got some great kill shots. One of a hog that I took down in Florida, and then I had one from a deer that I took down here in Wisconsin. But this past season, I've had the worst luck with the Tacticam, starting in Nebraska on that turkey hunt. Actually, I was filming and I had, the camera on the tripod, and I got these 4 gobblers to come in, and they were just gobbling, and I got them on camera. I got them coming down, and then right when they were getting ready to get out of the frame in my blind, it was just like, oh snap, I need to pull back and shoot one of these birds. So when I set the camera, leave it, the birds keep going completely out of frame, but I can still see them, in bow range of my blind. So I popped one, got him, completely missed the arrow going through him, picked back up on the camera where the bird was running, and then I saw him, running, and then he tried to fly, and then he flops and he goes down on the tree. Didn't even remember to turn the Tacticam on. Because it was just that adrenaline rush was just like, okay, it's like, oh, I got these 4 birds. Oh, wait a minute. I got to shoot one of these 4 birds or else they're going to all just keep walking away because they had their mind set to where they were going.
That's right.
So I missed that one. Then my deer hunt this year down in Georgia, oh my God. First I go in, I'm all set to self-film. I walk in, I bump them, I hear them. So I was just like, oh, I've already ruined this thing before it started. So I waited a couple minutes, kind of stomped and blew back at them. And, they scurried off. So I get in the blind, I get set up, get all my stuff set up on the ground blind. Because I like hunting mostly out of ground blinds. So I get in the blind, I'm getting set up or whatever. I look, got the camera, don't have the tripod. Good job, Ep.5. Good job. This is going to be good. So I was like, all right, well, screw it. Now I can just focus on the deer, whatever, wait, a few hours or whatnot. Sure enough, they circle back around, they come back. Let them do, what they're going to do. Let them start feeding, get comfortable or whatever. And I pull back, turn the Tacticam on, pop one, pass through the shoulder or right behind the shoulder, pass through whatever. She goes down. I go, wait a little bit, go recover or whatever. Get home. I'm all excited because I was like, oh, I got this on the Tacticam, whatnot. The blind was too high. So the only thing you see is just the bottom of the blind, like the black. And then you hear the thwack from the arrow once it hits her and goes through her. I was like, you know what? That is why we do not do this professionally, people. This is a outlet. Yeah. So
that is funny. That is funny. Well, it is a challenge, and like I said, I joke about taking a break from it and whatnot. It's funny because it's actually one of my New Year's resolutions is to do a better job when I'm out turkey hunting this year to actually film myself. And we film turkey hunts with our big cameras for Stroke Commander, but we don't film every one of them. We film ones that I don't want to say sure thing, but really high chances of getting something. We know we're going to get a lot of good footage and turkeys working the calls and whatnot. I would say we've probably filmed 60% of our hunts, maybe 70. But there's a lot of times where I go out and, it's just me. And so I'm not going to take a camera and a tripod and all that stuff because I'm super running gun style. Not a lot of waiting around. If he's not working his way to me, I'm going to him. So anyway, I've kind of got me a little contraption in my mind figured out for this year on how to use a couple GoPros or Tacticams to get all this on camera the way I want to and just do a better job keeping people updated this season on how's it going for us. Yeah, so I'm going to get more into it this year. We'll see. Hopefully, we'll see how long. I told my wife the other day, I said, I'm going to do a better job with this, but the first time it screws me up on a bird, that camera's going back in the truck.
And that's what I feel like happens a lot. It's like, you get out there, same thing with my turkey hunt. Like we got, I had hens and stuff coming in and hens kind of, plucking around or whatnot. And it was cool to kind of play with it. You go tight and then wide and then you follow them around and stuff. But then like once those gobblers come in, it's business time. Like you
That's right.
either forget about the filming or, you don't, it's not framed right or and all that other stuff because, at the end of the day, you want to make a harvest. So
That's right. That's right. And, I would say out of all of them, self-filming a turkey hunt to me, now duck hunting, self-filming that would be pretty tough. I mean, if you just kind of set your camera up on a wide angle and point it to the area where the ducks are coming in at, it might not be too bad. But, trying to follow a turkey in with a camera on a tripod, I mean, you just can't get away with a whole lot of movement unless you're in a blind, which is a great way to have it there. But it is really tough to me to self-film a turkey hunt, especially with a camera on a tripod. You really have to figure out a way to do something with GoPros and Tacticams so you can get it all on camera.
And it's funny because I've had probably the most success with a Tacticam on goose and duck hunts.
Have you?
Because they have the bracket, and you put it on the end of your barrel. Yep. And then you just hit it, once the birds start working, and then you just hit that button, and then once you pop up, it automatically focuses and everything. And I've gotten some pretty decent shots on birds from that.
Yeah.
But yeah, as far as like using a big camera, I wouldn't even begin to know where to even start with that, especially, and you know how it is duck hunting. You're in the blind. You already can't move as much as you want to. Yeah, over water. Last time I was in Arkansas, I mean, we sat through a monsoon, and then I had my GoPro out, and then that's the other thing. And I will say I like GoPros. If anybody's listening from GoPro, feel free to get in contact with me. But the GoPros, those things are like tanks. Like I said, I was out in the monsoon in Arkansas, and it's it worked great. I got some great footage. But the Tacticams on the guns, as far as getting good shots on birds and stuff, just from, like you said, a self-filming standpoint, that's probably been the most success I've had with them.
Oh yeah, they're pretty awesome.
So I guess the other thing too that I was kind of curious about that struck me interesting, when you are doing the Strut Commander and the Buck Commander shows and stuff, do you draw inspiration or draw like ideas from any other shows out of the hunting genre? Like, have you seen stuff maybe, I don't know, wherever, and was like, I wonder if I could do that in a hunting situation, or like, place a camera here or anything like that?
Yes. I'll tell you this. Buck Commander, actually, the style of the show came from, there was an MTV show I was watching at the time. I'm trying to remember what it was. There was a couple of different MTV shows, which is funny, MTV, but like the style of it, how it was edited. And then mixed with, hunting too. And then we had the Duck Commander show at the same time. So had a little bit of that reality thing to it. Since then, it's taken a little bit different route, which is, it's still awesome. But yes, I have definitely looked, and we do all the time too, because quite honestly, when we talk about what do we need to do as a company to be different,
right?
We don't like to look at what's in the industry, what other people are doing. There's some awesome shows out there. There's some really, really awesome shows out there, but we don't really like to look at those shows as inspiration going, we need to be more like Lee and Tiffany, or we need to be more like the Drurys, or for Buck Commanders, our mottos, good old boys having too much fun. And that's what it's about. We wanted it to be the fun side of deer camp, where Joe Bob out there can watch the show and he can go, man, I can relate to Luke Bryan because I got a guy just like him in my deer camp who is gullible and falls for anything. Or I got a guy in my deer camp that's just like Tombo Martin, where all he cares about is being on the best spot no matter how it messes up anybody else. Or I got a guy that'll shoot the first deer that walks out just so that he can get out of the deer stand like Willie. I mean, you just got so many different personalities on Buck Commander that we wanted it to be, and they're all real. I mean, they're not put on. They're all real personalities. It's just funny how they're all different and how relatable they are to people out there. I can't tell you how many people have come up to me and said, man, just when we watch your show, that Adam LaRoche, he's a killer, man. He knows his stuff, and he's able to get on those big bucks. And it's like, he is. That's really how he is. And that Willie, man, he looks like he can really cook, and he likes sleeping in that blind, doesn't he? I'm like, oh, yep, that's Willie, So
what you see is what you get.
That's it.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to get you out of here, a couple more, and then I'll get you out of here. I really enjoyed this. If you're just picking up this podcast, it's Jordan Summitt from Buck Commander, sitting down here on the Bryant Land Country Podcast. Everybody doesn't quite know or understand, and I would ask you to kind of take us through it. The role of a producer on an outdoor show. Like, what, I know you wear many hats, but like for folks out there, like what does that entail when you see, producer like on the credit or whatever? What does that exactly entail? What are you doing out there?
Well, a lot of times I'm not in charge of actually, lining up the hunt per se, as far as who's hunting. So let's just take Tombo for instance. So Tombo may call me and he'll say, "Hey Jordan, I got a hunt in Nebraska. I'm going on such and such date. Need a camera guy." I'll line up that camera guy. I'll kind of fill him in on who our sponsors are, maybe a particular storyline that's going on right then with Tombo or one of the other guys that we can use to kind of feedback and help tell that story, make sure they got their equipment, all that, arrange their travel. I mean, now it's even stretched into, I'm doing a lot more with our social media. I mean, our TV show's spread over to that, where our social media is almost as important as our TV show. And so I'm handling a lot of that. A lot of our sponsor deliverables, that we got to do for the TV show now and put on for social media as well. Just the digital side of things has grown so much that I'm actually taking a little bit more of a role in that. But I mean, as far as that's kind of for the fall. And then once the season's over, we all get in a room together, me and a couple of the other producers, and we'll line out all the episodes based on what we got that season and what we think we can make episodes about. We don't like to make like the Nebraska episode. I mean, sometimes it works out that way where it's a full episode in Nebraska, but we may take a hunt from Nebraska and it fits into a storyline that happened in Texas, and
Gotcha.
We have a lot of themed episodes. We have one episode here that was it's actually probably my favorite episode we've ever done. We called it Freeloader, and it was about how Tombo, and this is funny, it was about how Tombo is always like trying to get in on hunting everybody else's places. And so he would always either slip in the back door or whatever just to get to hunt some of these guys' places on the other owners of the company. And he'd be there. He'd be using scouting as an excuse, to get in there and hunt. And so Tombo doesn't have any property for himself, but he's glad to hunt everybody else's. So that was kind of the theme of the episode. It was really, really funny because it's true. And it came across on camera well. Everybody sees Tombo laughs now. You're like, "Oh, Tombo, he loves hunting everybody else's stuff, stinking up the place and then leaving."
Wow.
Anyway, so yeah, there's golly, I could talk for days on how much stuff we've got going on right here. But like I said, I've got a great crew. Guys that I work with, and we all kind of share in that. I don't do as much of the editing anymore. Actually, I don't think I edited one episode of Buck Commander last year because these other two guys that produce the show, they're full-time editors now, and they do a great job with the show. They're great storytellers. Basically, all I do on the TV side of it, I make sure all our sponsors are covered and check it off for deliverables and maybe watch the episode just to make sure there wasn't anything in quality control we missed. So,
gotcha.
Anyway, but yeah. There's a lot going on.
That was actually going to be my other question. You answered it for me. It's like, do you sit down and actually comb through the video and edit it and stuff, or you just kind of like make notes and then just pass it off to the editors once you get back? Yeah,
we basically we log our footage as we go throughout the season. So each cameraman, we got our computer, and we dump all our footage onto the computer, and we log each day with basically just the date, just a brief description of what happened that day. And so on each folder's done that way. And so then when you get done with a trip, we all bring it back and we dump it on our server and, just kind of go through the season that way. That way at the end of the season, we get on one big server. We can see every trip that we went on for the year, and we can see who was on that trip, what happened, and it makes it pretty easy to comb through it. So then once you do that, somebody will get in there and log it and look at all the footage and start kind of putting together what we call a rough cut episode, which is usually 25 to 30 minutes long. We'll all kind of watch it and kind of make our notes. Like I said, we work on a team, so we all kind of have our opinions on it. We'll make our notes, and then once we make our notes, then the editor will finalize it and trim it down to specs that it's got to be for Outdoor Channel.
Nice. Well, it sounds like you have more than enough to keep you busy.
I do. That's why I'm thankful for turkey season. That's kind of my break, which that kind of goes back to your original question, is finding time to hunt for myself. That was the one good thing about working here, was that nobody turkey hunted. Mm-hmm. So what does that mean for me? That means I don't have to video anybody turkey hunting in the spring. And so I ended up falling in love with turkey hunting, and now that's kind of what I do in the spring. I'm fortunate enough that they give me a few weeks to go hunt, and I kind of take advantage of that and spread it out throughout the spring and go shoot me some turkeys.
Nice.
Which is now blown up into Strut Commanders, and now we got our own line of calls and all kinds of stuff.
I was going to say, will you be down at the NWTF this year at the show?
I will.
Okay.
Yep, sure will.
Awesome. I am making plans. I think that's right around our All-Star break, the NBA All-Star break. So I'm planning on definitely going home to Georgia and then at least for a day drive up to Nashville and try to check that show out. So definitely if I do, I will make sure I stop by.
Yeah, you should, man. You should. Yeah, come find me.
I certainly will. Jordan, tell the people where they can find you. Tell all your social media, all that stuff. Let folks know where they can find you.
Yeah, man. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook. My Instagram handle's @Jordan Summitt. Also, please follow all our commander companies. Pretty much all of them is that official duck commander, official buck commander, official strut commander, and fin commander. So you can find us all on social media, and we're constantly putting up pictures and updates and videos of what's going on here and just trying to live the life, man.
Nice. Awesome, man. Sounds good. And then hopefully I can get you back on once turkey season dies down, and then we can talk about that and see how well that went for you.
Oh, yeah, buddy. I'm looking forward to it.
I appreciate it. Jordan Summitt from Buck Commander, y'all. Now, I tell you what, I really enjoyed the conversation I got to have with Jordan Summitt from Buck Commander. Wonderful guy. I had a great time talking to him about hunting, about filming, just trading stories back and forth, and that's what the podcast is all about. I mean, that's what I want this podcast to be about, is just to get out there, talk to people who are interested. You're going to hear me say it over and over again. I like telling stories, and I like talking to people who got interesting stories, and we can have a great conversation about things out here in the hunting world, especially whether it's behind the camera, behind the scenes kind of stuff that, you guys don't see every day on TV, or things, about these folks. As you see these folks on social media and you see them on TV and stuff, I mean, they're regular people just like us. They put their pants on one leg at a time. So I just like to be able to sit down, talk to these guys, put it on this kind of a forum, and bring it to you guys. So I hope that y'all enjoyed it. Remember to leave us a 5-star rating on iTunes, okay? You can get this podcast on iTunes. Make sure you guys are leaving us a 5-star rating, leaving us a positive review. If you got any questions, things that you want to see on the show, you want us to talk about more on the podcast, shoot me a email over at ab3bryantland@gmail.com, ab3bryantland@gmail.com. Like I said, when we pull together enough questions, we're just going to do an entire episode that's only listener questions. It can be about hunting, it can be about sports, ATV riding, trucks, whatever. Just get those questions in. Any kind of feedback that you got that you would like to hear from us on the podcast, just let us know. This is going to be an interactive deal. As I've said before, make sure you're following us at Official Bryantland on Instagram, at 3Bryantland on Twitter, and then on Facebook, we're on Bryantland. And of course, the website, www.bryantlandcountry.com, where you can get the podcast, Bryantland Country Podcast, or you can get it on the Podbean app. We're hosted by Podbean. So far, so good. There's a lot of places where you can get us. Google Play, the Google Store. For Android, you guys that aren't on the iPhone, hey, no problem. You can still get your Bryantland Country Podcast. Make sure you're telling 5 people. Tell those 5 people to tell 5 more people. And that's how we're going to get this thing to spread like wildfire. I appreciate y'all every time you take time out to listen to the Bryantland Country Podcast. Make sure you come on back. We're going to have more guests, more fun, more talk. Just having a good time. Bryantland Country Podcast. Y'all take it easy, and I'll catch up with you on the flip. All right?
Thanks for listening to the Bryantland Country Podcast, hosted by AB3. Please leave us a positive review and 5-star rating on iTunes. Be sure to check out our podcast section on our website, BryantlandCountry.com, for previous podcasts. Check us out on Instagram at Official Bryantland and Twitter at 3Bryantland. This has been an AB3 Media production. Join us next time for another edition of the Bryantland Country Podcast.